Feel free to return to our channel at any time. Once upon a time, there was a musical genius named Rod Stewart. His songs, such as Tonight's the Night and Maggie May, have captivated listeners for decades. A mystery, though, awaits revelation behind the spotlight. Despite the breadth of Stewart's body of work, the spotlight is squarely on his torrid private life. Rod came clean about something we all denied today. It was just him, a yellow Lamborghini, and an endless procession of models, centerfolds, and actresses when he was at the peak of his career. Rod Stewart challenged traditional notions of British taste with his sexually explicit music. There was actual antics going on behind the scenes. Not only are the facts legendary, but so are the racy tales. We should allow them to express themselves. In 1945, Rod Stewart's adventure started right in the middle of London. He didn't wind up in any old family by chance. As his parents' fifth child, he was welcomed into a busy household. He wasn't your average brother, believe me when I say that. Rod, who was just a little boy at the time, basked in the love and admiration of his family. Even though the other kids were vying for the same toys and leftovers, Rod's mom had something special, rabbit hearts, set aside only for him. Yes, it is correct. Even though his brothers had been sharing the heart before Rod came along, everything changed once he did. Not only that, but Rod's sister Mary made every Friday feel like Christmas. Every time she got off work, she would bring a brand new toy specifically for him. It's reasonable to assume that Rod Stewart was a wealthy man. Young Rod's heart was won over by more than just toys. No, he also had a soft spot for soccer, thanks to his dad and brothers who were huge fans. There's no surprise Rod got the virus. In 1959, he was even granted the opportunity to see a momentous match at Wembley, where England faced Scotland and Billy Wright, a soccer superstar, made history. Aspirations of Rod's to play soccer continued. He aspired to be a famous footballer and tried out for the Brentford club. Although the callback never materialized, he gracefully accepted the outcome. The stars, or more accurately, the notes of Rod's guitar, dictated his fate, even though his father had hoped to see him play on the field. Whenever Rod wasn't dribbling a soccer ball, he was bopping along to some tunes. Legendary artist Al Jolson's albums were like gold to young Rod as they echoed through his little bedroom. He would spend hours listening to those records, taking in each chord and word, and daydreaming of the day he could sing along with them. Yet Rod did more than merely listen. He yearned to embody the melody. After borrowing £30 from his brother and 10 from his own pocket, he managed to acquire a harmonica and an acoustic guitar. Rod created his own musical sanctuary, where he could jam out and fantasize about stardom, drawing inspiration from musicians like Bob Dylan, another of his heroes. Things started to change at this point. For Rod, school was never his cup of tea. He preferred listening to a song's tune than studying for tests and reading textbooks. He so chose to follow his own path after finding academic pursuits unsatisfying. His teachers were less than impressed by his defiance, to put it mildly. Excuse a few taps on the cane and a quick departure from the lecture hall. Rod left school at the tender age of 15, unprepared and with no credentials to his name. When Rod Stewart was only 16 years old, he dove deeply into the music industry by teaming up with the Raiders. Aspiring to make it big, they managed to get an audition with Joe Meek, a record producer. What started out as a chance at fame ended up becoming a musician's worst nightmare. There was no reason for Meek to give Rod a standing ovation as he sang his heart out. He stormed into the studio instead, covering his ears with his fists and erupting in a scream that might break glass. Despite Rod's best efforts, Meek refused to stop the scream scene. After such a tragedy, most people would have sought refuge underground, but not Rod. Putting aside his shame, he shifted gears and dove headfirst into activism. After moving in with fellow protesters at a hippie commune, he spoke out against world issues like nuclear aggression. For Rod, it wasn't all about the cause. Mixing it up with the women was his other goal. It seems that even his political position was slightly skewed. Rod Stewart jumped right in and got dirty when he was faced with a decision he had to make. Without hesitation, Rod accepted the job as a screen printer for a wallpaper company that his dad had gotten him. It covered all of his expenses and more, letting him help out his parents. Unfortunately, the printing press was out of the question due to his colorblindness. After that, Rod worked as an electrician, made picture frames, and even spent several Saturdays at Highgate Cemetery. He was left yearning for a deeper connection after a rapid succession of transient engagements. Still, Rod never stayed down for more than a few moments. In spite of everything that happened, he never lost sight of his goal and made the most of every opportunity that presented itself. Together with other musicians, he formed a band, traveling across Europe in the company of folk musician Wiz Jones. Not even a brief sojourn in Spain, interrupted by an encounter with the law, could dampen his resolve. Rod returned to England and discovered his musical calling playing harmonica and singing lead vocals with Jimmy Powell and the Five Dimensions. Something sparked for him while he publicly strung his guitar. The demands of the audience proved what Rod had suspected earlier. No one could turn a blind eye to the authority of his voice. When Rod Stewart attracted Long John Baldry's eye in 1964, his big break came knocking. Stewart, who was only 19 years old, was jamming out on his guitar outside of a train station when Baldry caught sight of him and thought, "Hey, this kid's got it." Baldry gave Stewart a leg up in the business world by inviting him to join his band. Success came pouring in the year after that. Before he joined up with the Jeff Beck Group, Stewart was a supporting act for the Rolling Stones. In 1969, he was already establishing himself as a solo artist and causing a stir with the Faces. As far as I can tell, Rod Stewart was never one to shirk a challenge. He bravely confronted the fiercely competitive music industry while juggling many projects. Songs like Tonight's the Night and Die, Think I'm Sexy reached #1 on the charts in the United States, thanks to his hard work and dedication. Not only was Rod talented, but he was also unafraid to stand out. He established his own unique sound by embracing a wide variety of musical influences and working with a wide range of individuals. The music of Rod Stewart, from his first solo album to his most famous single, Maggie May, changed the face of the UK music landscape forever. Now, Rod kept his feet firmly planted on the ground and his audience in his heart, even though he was a celebrity. He continued to captivate people worldwide with his lovable charisma, whether he was traveling in expensive cars or mingling with supermodels. There has been no plain sailing for Rod Stewart on his journey. The tragic diagnosis of prostate cancer came to the legendary musician in 2017. After 2 tough years of fighting in quiet, he was finally cleared to speak out in 2019. Sharing his tale at a fundraiser, he stressed the need for early detection and a positive attitude to conquer such obstacles. Aside from disease, there were other obstacles. From mischief at the airport to fights in bars, Rod's son Sean has had his share of legal issues. Regardless of the obstacles, Sean maintains that he has a close relationship with his dad and values their many soccer games and hangouts. A complicated love story parallels Rod Stewart's legendary music. He has a wealth of love experience, having been married 3 times and enjoyed a number of relationships. He gave an honest interview to Rolling Stone in which he offered his advice, telling couples to save fighting for a more appropriate time and not argue just before bed. Rod's romantic history is a hodgepodge, with 8 offspring from 5 other women. Despite his unusual family tree, Rod values every relationship and says that his life experiences have made him a stronger spouse. With an emphasis on compromise and open dialogue, he lets his wife lead the way while they continue to cultivate romance in their everyday lives. He describes his 2007 marriage to Penny Lancaster, his 3rd wife, as a picture of home joy. Their dedication to maintaining their romance is evident in their nightly romantic dinners. Check out this other video as well if you enjoyed this one.